The strange case that shook the world in 1821. In 1821, a ripple ran through Europe, a strange, violent, and transformative moment that few outside the region truly understand today. That year marked the opening salvo of the Greek War of Independence, but it also bore a darker twist, a tangled political rebellion, brutal reprisals, and acts so shocking they would reverberate far beyond the Ottoman territories. The story begins in Wallachia, where a rebellious group of fighters known as the Pandurs, led by Tudor Vladimirescu, rose up in early 1821. What started as a revolt against the oppressive Fanario regime quickly escalated. Vladimirescu and his men issued the so-called Assembly of the People, claiming to defend Wallachian interests, but this movement became entangled with secret societies, including agents from the Filiki Iteria who were dedicated to Greek independence. According to historians, while those groups claimed to share a goal, their interests diverged. Vladimirescu's forces eventually clashed with the Greek revolutionaries, and accusations of betrayal grew. As these rebellions simmered, the Ottoman Empire responded with brutal suppression. In Constantinople, authorities retaliated against the Greek community in a wave of terror. Key figures were executed. Patriarch Gregory V was hanged, and other leaders met similar fates. Churches were looted, communities devastated, and the massacre left a scar on the collective memory of the Orthodox world. At the same time, Ottoman troops crushed rebels in the Danubian principalities, and Vladimirescu himself was betrayed and executed, his body later dispersed or lost. But why call it strange? Because it wasn't a simple nationalist uprising. It was a chaotic alliance of convenience, conspirators with different agendas, infiltrated by secret political societies, and torn apart by suspicion. Some historians argue that Vladimirescu had actually negotiated secretly with the Ottomans, even as he fought alongside Greek revolutionaries, hoping to secure Wallachian autonomy. Others note that the Iterist leaders saw him as a liability and eventually moved to eliminate him. The violence of the reprisals shocked not just the region, but reverberated across Europe, raising questions about loyalty, ambition, and the true nature of revolution. Meanwhile, across the world, in Latin America, another major event was unfolding. Simón Bolívar won a decisive victory at the Battle of Carabobo on June 24, 1821, securing Venezuela's independence from Spain. And back in North America, the United States formally took possession of Florida in July of that year, a significant territorial shift. These events helped underscore that 1821 wasn't just about rebellion in the Balkans, it was a turning point in global nationalist movements. Yet despite these massive geopolitical shifts, the Wallachian uprising remains underexplored in popular history. Why? Part of it may be the complexity. This was not a clean, unified revolution. It involved fragmented groups, secret machinations, betrayals, and brutal reprisals. The violence was not simply between oppressor and oppressed, it played out within rebel factions themselves. When Vladimirescu was executed, it was Greek revolutionaries, not Ottoman soldiers, who helped carry out the deed. The massacre in Constantinople added another dark layer. The hanging of a religious leader like Patriarch Gregory V sent shockwaves through Christendom. It ignited outrage among European nobles, clergy, and commoners alike, some of whom saw the execution as sacrilegious and politically motivated. While this slaughter is documented, the motivations behind some of the actions remain debated. Was it purely retaliation or a brutal demonstration of imperial authority meant to crush any hint of uprising? Some scholars suggest this tangled web of rebellion, betrayal, and massacre reshaped modern nationalism in Europe. Vladimirescu's revolt is sometimes seen as the first major awakening of Romanian national consciousness. Others argue that the alliance between Wallachian fighters and Greek revolutionaries illustrates how nationalist movements were part of larger conspiratorial underground networks rather than purely mass uprisings. The fact that Vladimirescu may have tried to deal with the Ottomans even as he raised revolt illustrates just how murky the motives really were. Over time, the memory of 1821 became mythic, part hero's tale, part tragedy. The Greek Revolution would ultimately lead to independence nearly a decade later, but scholars and storytellers alike continue to debate the strange case at its heart. A revolt that was not purely national, but deeply political. A betrayal that came from unexpected corners. And a massacre that dramatized the terrifying power of empire. Today, as we look back, that year still holds a lesson. Revolution is not always clean. Alliances can shift. Ideals can be corrupted. And in the crucible of rebellion, even those who claim to fight for freedom may end up fighting each other. It's a strange case indeed, one that shook the world in 1821 and still echoes in the stories nations tell themselves. And that's something worth remembering when you next reflect on the true cost of freedom.